Hello, my dear students, and welcome to lesson 1 of our graphic design class. So first of all, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to this track, the digital track, and I also want to thank you for enrolling the BSIT course. For chapter 1, we will have a comprehensive discussion on the concepts of graphic design. So I have divided chapter 1 into 5 parts. The first part, which is the universal arts of graphic design, and the last part, which is seeing design, are supplemental video lessons for you to better understand what graphic design is from the graphic designer's perspective. So there will be speakers here. I will not be the one to talk. Okay, it will be some graphic designers. So I want you to understand what graphic design is from their point of view. Lesson 1 will cover the definition of graphic design, its impact on human lives, the tools of graphic designer, and the graphic design careers. So that would cover lesson 1, which is graphic design fundamentals. Lesson 2 will cover the elements or the 7 elements of design, and lesson 3 will be covering the principles, the 7 principles of design. Okay, so for this video lesson, we will cover lesson 1, and that is the graphic design fundamentals. But before we proceed to lesson 1, let me just talk about first the learning objectives or what are expected from you after completing this chapter. So after completing chapter 1, you should be able to demonstrate deep understanding on the meaning and even deep awareness of the meaning and role of graphic design. So you should be able to define graphic design on your own. Okay, you should be able to understand the role of graphic design in your everyday lives. Okay, you should also know the tools needed to become a graphic designer and the different careers that you can pursue. Okay, when you finish this track or this course. And also, you should be able to demonstrate deep understanding and awareness on the 7 elements and 7 principles of design because this would help you on creating functional designs. In addition, you should also evaluate yourselves regarding the fundamentals of graphic design. Okay, class, please take note of these objectives because this is what we want to achieve upon completion of this chapter. Okay, so let's start lesson 1. Of course, the first thing we need to answer is the question, what is graphic design? And let me make this simple by defining graphic design by example. So if you have a coffee cup on your dining table, or if you're holding it right now while watching this video lesson, you can see the print on it. Okay, there are most of the coffee mugs that we are buying now have a print on it. And the print on your coffee mug is an example of a graphic design. This is created by a graphic designer. Okay, you might also be snacking on something that came in some form of packaging, like the potato chips here. Okay, if you can see the design of the label of this plastic. Okay, that is also an example of a graphic design and that is created by a graphic designer. Even the logo on your device or on your phone, which uh, which I believe we have all this type of device. Okay, and I also believe that you are holding your device now watching this video lesson. If you can look at the logo of your phone, okay, that is also a deliverable of a graphic designer, and that is an example of a graphic design. Logo actually is the most common example of a graphic design. Okay, so By that, siguro nagkakaroon na kayo ng idea kung ano ang graphic design and how will you define graphic design. Okay? So these are visuals, di ba? So nakikita natin sila nakaprint sa mga t-shirt or sa mga binibili natin na products sa supermarket, sa mga gadgets natin, sa mga devices natin, nakikita natin lahat yan. Okay? So graphic design is an extremely wide industry, and therefore it is important for us to understand what graphic design is. So based from the examples given, can you now define what graphic design is? If we can define graphic design, we can also refer to it as a form of visual communication. So there is verbal communication, there is visual communication. Um, if we communicate using verbal communication, we understand the message that we want to convey by listening, diba? Okay? So pag may sinabi sa'yo verbally, narinig mo siya, so naintindihan mo. But in graphic design, we don't do verbal communication. Okay? We don't talk. Your design cannot talk. Okay? But instead, okay, you convey a message using visuals. Okay, kaya tinawag siyang form of visual communication. So if you wish to uh, give an impression to your, for example, to your audience just by your logo or just by the colors that you use, okay, you can do that through graphic design. Okay, for example, ang gusto mo maging impression sa'yo ng mga customers mo or consumer mo is playful or gusto mong formal o pwede mong gawing relax, ganun yung gusto mo maging impression. So you can convey that impression or information to your consumer or customer just by using visuals. Okay? So graphic design is a form of visual communication consisting of illustrations. So when we say illustrations, these are hand-drawn, okay, images. Hindi siya real pictures, okay? These are hand-drawn, so pwedeng gumamit ka ng paper and pencil to draw that illustration, or you use digital devices to create that illustration, okay, or create that image. Basta in short, when I say illustration, these are hand-drawn or digitally drawn images. These are not real pictures or real images. Okay, so graphic design is a form of visual communication that consists of illustrations or digitally or hand-drawn images, typography or text or words, okay, and photography, okay, or photographs. Okay, so we use these three visuals: illustrations, typography or text, photography or photograph, to communicate to a target audience visually. Okay, so if you want to convey a message, if you want them to have this impression sa'yo, okay, you can do that visually and not verbally by just using these three visuals. Okay, so let's have a look at some more practical examples. So for the succeeding slides, I will show you an image and you simply identify where graphic design is visible in these images. Okay, so in this mall, for example, how many signs of graphic design can you identify? Okay, so for me, I managed to get 5. Perhaps I even missed some. The signs that we see here, okay, yung mga signage natin dito, kung saan ang restaurant, saan ang museum, saan ang CR. Okay, these are examples of signages, and these are examples of graphic design. Also, this digital signage here, okay, of a cinema presentation is also an example of graphic design. The names of the shops here are also, and even the name of the mall are also examples of graphic design or forms of graphic design. Bakit ko nasabi yon? Kasi yung definition natin kanina ng graphic design, visual communication consisting of text or typography, okay, illustrations or hand-drawn or digitally drawn images, and photographs. Okay, nakikita natin dyan. In this photo also, how many forms of graphic design can you identify? Okay, so of course, I will not let you count because we might miss other essential parts of this lesson if we do so. Just take note that the packaging label design, the boxes design, how it is folded, the materials that is used to package these products, the wrapper design, and even the signage as to where we can find these products are all examples of graphic design. Even the magazine covers here are examples of graphic design. Okay, so can you now understand the importance of graphic design in our daily lives? Or how do these designs communicate to us even though they cannot talk? Okay, so there is no verbal communication just by using visuals, yung sinabi ko kanina na text, images and illustrations. Okay, we can relay or we can convey the message that we want to communicate. To explain further the meaning and role of graphic design, we use visuals such as text, photograph, and illustrations first to solve a problem. Okay, for example, what will happen to us if the street signs, okay, these are examples of street signs, yung billboard natin, and then yung signage na yan. So what will happen kaya sa atin if these street signs or signages were empty? So there is no graphic design. So empty lahat yung nakikita natin sa streets when we go to mall. Uh, Walang mga signages kung saan bibilhin ang mga tissue, saan bibilhin ang mga baby products. So walang mga signages. So there is no graphic design. So what will happen? Okay? How will we know if we are buying the correct product? How will we know if uh, this is the product that we need if we do not have package details or design? Okay, so these are just some visible applications of graphic design in human lives. Okay, magkakaproblema talaga tayo pag walang mga labels, walang mga signages, okay? So, saan tayo pupunta? Anong bibili natin? Tama ba ito? Okay, so, yan yung isang role ng graphic design or ng design into human lives. Next, we also use graphic design to communicate effectively. Okay, take note guys that if your design or if the design you created using photographs, illustration, and typography does not communicate effectively, okay, kasi you did not apply, for example, the principles of design, so your design is not effective, okay, it does not communicate effectively, irrespective of how interesting and pleasing your design may seem, your task as a designer is not done. Okay? So if others think that your design cannot be understood or does not communicate effectively, then your task as a designer is not done. Remember, successful designs should communicate the message that we want to convey. Okay, so that is one role or another role of design. Lastly, graphic design is there to make our everyday lives more convenient and hassle-free without us even realizing it. So this means that good design is transparent. Okay? Bakit ko nasabi na transparent? Transparent or invisible. Okay? Kasi hindi natin nare-realize na nakakapag-communicate tayo sa isang product. Okay? Hindi natin nare-realize na just by that design, by that cover, by that packaging label or label design of that product, naiintindihan natin or nakakapag-communicate tayo. Okay, ginagamit pala ito para sa pagtanggal ng sakit ng tiyan. For example, ganyan, ginagamit pala ito para mawala ang ganito sa katawan. For example, ganyan. Okay, so nakikipag-communicate tayo, but we are not talking with each other. Okay, just by looking on that design, just by reading on that design, okay, naiintindihan natin yung gustong i-convey nung may-ari nung product na yon. Okay? So, hindi natin nare-realize yon kasi hindi natin masyadong pinapansin yung role of design sa ating mga in our everyday life or everyday lives. I would like you to look also at these examples and identify Okay, so kanina na-discuss natin na graphic design is a form of visual communication that uses visuals such as typography, illustrations, and photographs. Okay, now let us check these examples and let us identify what visuals are used. Okay, so the poster here, for example, is composed of the three visuals that we have discussed earlier. Okay, obviously this is not an example of a real image. Okay, and this is drawn. The designer uses or use shapes, okay, to create this cup, okay, and also typography is used here to give emphasis doon sa important terms na gustong i-convey nung gumawa nitong poster na ito. So the two visuals na nagamit dito sa poster are illustrations in the form of the cup and typography dito sa text. Typography, by the way, I will just explain that in the simplest explanation that I can. Okay, typography is the appearance of text. Okay, and that includes the font size, the font face, the font color. Okay, those are examples of font formatting. And when we say typography, we refer to the appearance or the art of formatting a text or a word or yung mga letters natin. The Google logo is another great example of graphic design. Sabi ko nga kanina, logo is the most popular example of a graphic design. Okay, and in terms of visuals, this logo, it is consists out of text. Okay, so typography yung nagamit na visual. Pero take note that using computer software, a graphic design software, you can also create your own letters. Okay? So, pwede kang gumawa ng sarili mong font face using a graphic design software. In short, this logo does not only consist of typography or text, but also a form of illustration as well, because you can digitally draw these letters, or you can okay, can hand draw these letters. The t-shirt print is another good example of graphic design. So yung nakikita niyo dyan. Visuals included in this example are illustrations as well as text. Yan. Kasi pwede mo din naman i-drawing yung letters. You can also create that. The movie poster is also an example of a graphic design because you can use a movie poster to communicate or to convey a message to your viewer. So visuals included in this example are photography, na-edit lang. Pictures ito pero edited lang siya using a photo manipulation software, and also illustrations as well as typography. Let's check a more simple example. So, lahat tayo nakakita na ng mga traffic signages or in this example, traffic icons. And we all know that the purpose of this is to direct us as quickly as possible. Okay, where is the movie theater? Where is the shopping center? Okay, where will I go if I want to go here or I want to go there? Okay, these icons are universal. They are even universal. When I say universal, it means that almost anyone, irrespective of their language or cultural background, will be able to understand this icon. So, English, English person ka man, Tagalog ka man, Ifugao ka man, Ilocano ka man, kahit anong dialect mo, kahit sa anong culture mo, you can understand the meaning of this signages or icons. Okay, now that you have a better understanding of graphic design, okay, can you imagine how the world would function without the use of visual communication or without design? Diba? Hindi. Imaginein mo ito yung street sign mo. Anong ibig sabihin ng mga yan kung walang design? Okay, kung walang visual such as text, walang images, walang illustrations. Okay, itong mga traffic icons natin, Okay, kung ganito lang, yung material lang, for example, yung diamond lang, walang nakalagay na text, walang visual, we don't know where to go. We don't know the meaning kung wala yung mga visuals na sinabi ko kanina, yung tatlong visuals. Okay, now I would like to move on to the graphic design careers. But before I do, I would like you to answer the following question. Why did you choose digital arts and enroll graphic design specifically? Do you consider this as a mean of becoming self-employed? Or perhaps you are planning of changing career? Okay, syempre, pwede kang, kung graphic designer ka, pwede ka nang self-employed. Okay, kasi you can, if you are not aware, you can sell your artwork online. Okay, other countries are buying these artworks. In the Philippines, all artworks are free because we can simply download these artworks and edit them just to remove yung mga watermarks, di ba? But in other countries, they buy these artworks. So if you want to earn dollar and you want to become self-employed, then you can pursue your career in graphic design. You can be a graphic designer. You create your artworks, okay, such as logos, PowerPoint template design, brochure design. Okay, you can create those and sell them online and you will earn dollar. Okay, so is that your reason? Okay, on enrolling graphic design. Okay, so yun ba yung rason mo kung bakit in-enroll mo ang graphic design or ayaw mo na dun sa dating course mo or sa dating track mo at lumipat ka lang dito? You're planning of changing your career or you just think that this is interesting? Okay, this is your hobby, you are an artist, you like drawing, you like designing, kaya mo in-enroll to. Or are you just being influenced by your friends? Okay, mostly siguro ito yung rason kasi ito yung in-enroll ma'am nung barkada ko. Okay, or do you have other reasons and just wanted to check it out before making a decision? So gusto mo lang i-test kung ito ba yung hinahanap mo na course. Okay, so either way, kahit ano man yung maging reason nyo dyan, did you know that graphic design is actually a very wide field and we have a variety of different designers? Okay, but take note that what all these options, yung pinakita ko kanina na options, what all these options have in common, what these designers have in common is the fact that they need a computer and software to start off with. Okay? So very important yun. If you are a graphic designer, okay, kailangan mo ng computer, kailangan mo ng graphic design software para makapag-start ka. And the industry standard is the Adobe package. Okay, the Adobe Illustrator, the Adobe Photoshop, and the Adobe InDesign is being referred to as the Holy Trinity when it comes to graphic design. Okay, so these are the three must-know programs any designer should be familiar with as they work in mutual relationship with one another. Okay, hindi ko naman sinasabi na ito lang ang pwede. Of course, there are others. There are other graphic design software like CorelDRAW. Pareho yan sa Adobe Illustrator. They are both used for vector image. Okay, creating vector images. Pwede din yung GIMP for Adobe Photoshop. Okay, Publisher, pwede din siya for Adobe InDesign. So there are various software or graphic design software that you can use if you want to pursue graphic design. But the industry standard is ito. Ito yung mga popular. Okay, because yung mga features, most of the features ng Adobe kasi is talagang powerful sila. So marami kang pwedeng gawin through these features. Okay? And what are the differences, okay, of these three? So I will not discuss the differences siguro in terms of the features na isa-isahin natin in this lesson, but as you continue with the subject and get practical experience, you will get to understand these programs better. So Adobe Illustrator is a vector-based program. And like the name implies, it is used to create illustrations. Okay, when I say vector base, yung nakikita nyo dito, digitally drawn siya or hand-drawn siya. Okay, vector. Hindi siya real pictures. Okay, created illustration or created image siya. That is a vector base, digitally drawn on the computer. The amazing thing about vector illustrations is that even if you resize them at a very large size or small, okay, the quality or the qualities is still the same. Okay? They never lose quality. Yun ang maganda pag vector. Kahit enlarge mo yan ng sobrang laki or sobrang liit, tapos binalik mo ulit sa sobrang super large na size, the quality is still the same. Okay? They never lose quality. Yun ang maganda sa mga vector base. Okay? And another one, they are also small in file size, meaning they don't take up a lot of space on your computer. Okay, unlike real pictures na sinisave natin from our phone or from our camera. Okay, na medyo malaki yung file size niya. So that is Adobe Illustrator. So ang ginagawa natin sa Adobe Illustrator are vector-based illustrations. They don't lose quality, they are small in file size. Photoshop, on the other hand, is a photo manipulation program. And this is used only by graphic designers. This is not used only by graphic designers, but also photographers, animators, fine artists, and other creative industry careers. So you will make use of Photoshop to enhance and manipulate photographs. And also, Photoshop has the ability to create posters and other artworks. You can also create magazine covers since real pictures yung mga nilalagay natin sa mga covers. Okay, you can also use Photoshop there. The difference in Photoshop is that it delivers the content in raster format and not in vector format. So ang vector, sabi natin kanina digitally drawn siya. Pag raster naman, these are images na kinuha mo using a camera. Okay? So you took a picture using your camera, using your phone. Yung picture na yon are raster based. They are or they consist of pixels. Kung napapansin nyo pag ini-enlarge nyo yung mga pictures nyo ng super large and then may nakikita kayong mga parang square na maliliit, those are pixels. Okay? And these images, okay, raster images are made up or made up of millions and even billions of pixels depending on its size. Raster format, okay, yung sinabi ko kanina, raster format means that the image is consists out of pixels. And also, okay, in Adobe Photoshop, when you resize an image, okay, the quality is also affected. Okay, so pag kunwari maliit yung photo and then in-enlarge mo, syempre magiging visible yung mga pixels. And once na naging visible yung mga pixels, magiging blurry na yung image mo. Okay? Unlike vector na kahit enlarge mo ng sobrang laki, the same quality. Hindi nawawala yung quality niya. Okay, so yun yung difference ng dalawa. Adobe InDesign is a layout-based program and mostly used for creation of books, magazines, or e-publications. Okay, so more on publications naman ito. Yung magazine spread, brochure, newsletter, yun naman yung ginagawa natin sa InDesign. And trabaho pa rin yan ng graphic designer, di ba? May mga graphic designer na ang ginagawa is books or e-publications. It has the ability to combine all your Illustrator and Photoshop artwork into one document. So yun si InDesign. Pwede niyang import yung ginawa mo sa Illustrator and sa Photoshop. Okay, and i-combine yan. For example, may inedit kang magazine cover doon sa Photoshop and then meron kang ginawa na logo doon sa Illustrator. Pwedeng i-import yan sa Adobe InDesign. Okay? So, kunwari gagawa ng catalog or gagawa ng magazine, yung graphic designer, pwedeng kunin niya yung cover page sa Photoshop, pwedeng kunin niya yung logo sa Adobe Illustrator. InDesign has great ability in creating interactivity into publications or e-publications and interactive PDF documents. So it will make these documents really user-friendly for the end user to manage. Yung mga e-books na or mga books na binabasa nyo using your device, those are examples of e-publications, and those are products or deliverables of a graphic designer. So graphic design even correlate with other careers. And sometimes it can be the stepping stone into a different types of design career. So for now, we will look at the various graphic design careers kasi tapos na tayo dun sa tools. Okay, so ito yung mga tools na pwedeng gamitin ng graphic designer. The Holy Trinity, Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign. The graphic design careers are as follows. So we have advertising designer, we have environmental designer, we have publication designer, motion designer, corporate designer, web designer, and packaging designer. So these are the various careers na pwede nyong i-pursue if you want to seriously pursue graphic design. The first type of designer is an advertising designer, and this is probably the most well-known and common form of graphic design career. Why? Because it entails print media, ranging from brochures to magazines, as well as digital design and social media design. The skills needed for this type of career would be the use of Adobe Illustrator, okay, yung first logo natin, Photoshop, as well as InDesign. And examples of what you will be able to do as an advertising designer are magazines. Okay, this is one of your deliverable if you are an advertising designer. Newspapers, the layout of the newspaper, the layout of the text and the images. Okay, gawa lahat yan ng graphic designer. Brochure, okay, like this. This is also a deliverable or product of an advertising designer. Advertising focus yan. Pero pag sinabi nating advertising, alam nyo na kung anong ibig sabihin nun. Advertisement, ads. Okay, so if you want to advertise something, okay, in a newspaper, in a magazine, in a brochure, okay, syempre yung brochure, ang laman lang talaga, ad about your company. Okay, you can ask a graphic designer to do that for you. Email newsletters. Okay, email newsletters are basically a type of email, electronic mail, sent out by companies or individuals to their subscribers. So, kunwari nag-subscribe ka sa Zalora, nag-subscribe ka sa Lazada, okay, kung may mga promos sila, okay, may mga sales sila, okay, they will send you, di ba, an email, and that is called email newsletters. Okay, another product of an advertising designer are social media graphics. And social media graphics are visual component of any social post. So usually in the form of images or GIFs, yung mga moving images, yun ang GIFs, and even video. Example is this Instagram post. Okay, this is an example of a social media graphics. Graphic design to because it consists out of a photograph, typography, and illustration. Infographic is also a deliverable of an advertising designer because they can advertise a product using an infographic. And by definition, an infographic, by the way, is a visual representation of any kind of information. So parang yung information, dinagdagan lang siya ng graphics, okay, for it to be more interesting. The next type of designer is known as environmental designer. And environmental designer would consider architecture and the environment to make spaces and places more attractive and also efficient for people to move around it. Okay, so it entails aspects and knowledge of architecture, interior design, industrial design, as well as landscaping. So an environmental designer should have knowledge also on these aspects. And skills needed for this type of career would be the use of Adobe Illustrator and also Photoshop. Okay? Wala sa InDesign kasi hindi naman publication ang focus ng environmental designer. And environmental designers they might also make use of three-dimensional software like AutoCAD or Maya, okay, to help the clients visualize the end result before actually constructing it. Okay, syempre kung hindi nila alam mag-drawing, they can use 3D software para maipakita nila dun sa mga clients nila kung ano yung magiging itsura nung building or nung uh, company or nung office or nung establishment once na nailagay yung mga design. Okay, alternatively, they can simply use a photograph of the existing space and use Photoshop to add the artwork. So there is also a need na ang mga environmental designer magaling din sa photo manipulation. Kasi kung wala silang knowledge sa 3D software, they can use a photograph of that building or of that office and then they will place the design. Okay? Kunwari, yung pangalan ng office, yung ipipaint or yung ilalagay na design doon sa pader, okay, pwede naman nilang ilagay yon or i-manipulate yon using Photoshop. Exhibition and event spaces are examples of a product, examples of deliverables of environmental designer. Yung mga designs na nakikita nyo dito, di ba may mga exhibitions, ito yung mga places wherein companies or businessman display or showcase their products, di ba? Kung nakakita na kayo ng ganito or nakapunta na kayo. And mostly sa mga exhibition and event spaces, may mga makikita kayo doon na visuals. Okay? Like yung nakikita nyo dito sa picture. Siyempre, this is to identify also para ma-identify ng mga customers kung anong product yon, kaninong company ba yon, ano ba yung ino-offer ng product na yon, ano yung features ng product na yon. Okay? So ito yung isang trabaho ng environmental designer. They also design mural artwork like you see on this picture. Environmental designer din yan. And also signages, digital signages man yan or hindi digital, trabaho yan ng environmental designer. Okay, so yung mga nakikita nyo na digital signages pag pumunta kayo ng airport or ng mga supermarket wherein nagmo-move na yung mga text. Okay, those are examples of environmental designers' deliverables. Even office branding, okay, ito yung pinaka-popular na trabaho ng environmental designer. Bakit kung na-try nyo nang pumasok sa isang company or isang building na pag, kunwari business yan, may makikita ka na, mapapansin mo na magkakapareho yung color palette. So parang ganito, yung yellow, yung very dominant dito. And even yung font face or style ng mga text na nakaprint doon sa mga offices, sa mga pader, sa mga tables, okay? Pare-pareho. So very common. So may common sa kanila, pare-pareho sila ng font face, pare-pareho ng color, okay? That is called office branding and kino-consider ito ng environmental designer every time they are asked to. We also have stadium and concert branding. Okay, mga nakikita nyo dyan na Intel Gateway, Welcome to Levi Stadium. Okay, these are examples of environmental designers' deliverables. So as you would have noticed, some of these design careers tend to overlap kasi kanina diniscuss natin ang advertising designer and they work on magazines, newspapers, okay? Like an advertising designer, publication designers also focus on publications. Okay, just like yung sabi ko nga kanina na advertising designers. They also do magazines, they also do newspaper, but most recently, publication designers are focusing on a more digital approach. Okay, so instead of printed books, instead of printed catalogs, instead of printed magazines and newsletters, okay, they convert this or they work more or they work on a more digital approach. So nagiging e-book kasi instead of printing the book, pwede mo na siyang basahin sa computer mo. Instead of using a catalog to browse for products, pwede ka nang mag-browse using your device. Okay, so yun ang focus ng publication designer. And skills needed for this type of career would be the use of Illustrator, Photoshop, as well as InDesign. And examples of their deliverables are e-publications or e-books. Okay, this is an example, a digital newspaper, and this is a deliverable of a publication designer. Catalogs, like this. Pero sabi ko kanina, digital. So you can also see catalogs like if you open your Shopee app or your Lazada app or your Zalora app, yung nakikita nyo doon na list or mga pictures ng mga products na pwede nyong bilhin. Those are examples of catalogs. You have menus. Okay, if you have food app wherein you can order products online. Okay, those are examples of publication designers' deliverables. Next, we have motion designers. And motion designers get a lot of popularity during the last decade. And until now, due to the technological advancements, a motion designer takes design elements and creates the illusion of movement with these elements. Kaya tinawag silang motion designer. Movement. They are moving these elements for it to become more interesting. And a very popular program to create these movements are Adobe After Effects or is Adobe After Effects. The skills needed for this type of career would be the use of Illustrator kasi a motion designer might create first the illustrations using Adobe Illustrator before niya lagyan ng animation or ng motion. Also, Photoshop, kasi may mga possibilities din na kailangan ng photo manipulation before the bigyan ng motion. Okay? Motion designer also needs to have a knowledge on the use of software like After Effects and Autodesk Maya software, a 3D animation software. This is a great way to tell a story and is being used in TV advertisements. So yun yung focus naman ng motion designer. Examples include TV advertisements. So let's play this example of a TV advertisement, and this is a deliverable of motion designer. Another output of a motion designer are movie intros. Okay, but I believe nakita nyo, nanonood kayo ng mga movies, and then diba, when you watch yung movie, yung first part niya palagi is pinapakita yung mga pangalan ng cast, okay, yung title ng cast, even at the end of the movie, may mga lumalabas na credits kung sino yung mga tumulong doon sa movie na yon. Dati, text lang talaga siya na nag-a-appear na plain text, pero ngayon may involvement na ng design, di ba? May mga colors na yung mga names. Kung minsan, pag yung bida, mas malaki yung pangalan niya. Okay, those are examples of movie intros, and those are deliverables of motion designer. Next, we have corporate designers. A company's brand needs to communicate effectively and quickly, right? So a corporate designer's role is to aid these companies in creating successful brand that communicates successfully to its target audience. So you will need to get a great understanding of the design elements and principles, which we will discuss on the next lessons, on the succeeding lessons, for you to become a great corporate designer. The skills needed for this type of career would be the use of Illustrator, Photoshop, as well as InDesign. But mostly, ang gagamitin ng isang corporate designer will be Adobe Illustrator because this will allow them to create illustrations such as logos and corporate identities. Okay, like itong mga nakikita nyo sa screen ngayon, corporate identities, kasi may common sa kanila. So there is repetition on the pattern that is used dito sa nakikita natin sa screen. Okay? In this defined corporate identity, gagamit sila ng isang color palette. Okay? Parang dito ang ginamit niya is gray, black, and pink. Gagamit sila ng isa o dalawang o tatlong font face. Okay? Lahat ng mga products na ilalabas nila, lahat ng mga gamitin na ng letterhead, business card, pare-pareho ng gagamiting typefaces. And even the illustrations and images na ginagamit nila, meron ding, kumbaga merong trademark. Okay, so yun yung very uh, uh, yun yung synonym ng corporate identity. So parang may trademark, may common sa lahat ng mga products nila or sa mga ginagamit nilang materials. Examples of, okay, sorry for that. Example of corporate designers' deliverables are logos, okay, like you see on the screen now. Business card design, letterhead design, yung nakikita nyo sa taas. I think di nyo nakikita yung aking mouse pointer, pero yung nakikita nyo sa taas ng page na yan, wherein nakalagay. So parang yung paper na ginagamit sa IPSU na parang merong image sa pinakataas palagi ng paper. Pag nag-print sila ng communication letter, merong image dun sa taas. That is an example of a letterhead. Okay, next we have designers or web designers. A web designer not only need to be able to create an effective website, but will also need to understand how to make this website appealing. So coding lies at the back end of being a web designer. So hindi naman necessary na pag web designer ka dapat programmer ka din. Kasi web designer focuses mostly on the design or aesthetics of a website. But on top of that, web designers would also need to make use of Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, along with web designing software like Adobe Dreamweaver, or even web-based applications like WordPress. Okay, kasi dapat may, kahit konti, meron ka ding knowledge doon sa mga yon. Okay, another deliverable of a web designer is a mobile app. Okay, yung ginagamit natin sa mga cellphone natin na mga apps, those are actually ang tawag sa kanila, ang common na tawag sa kanila are mobile app designers. Pero a web designer can also do this because it is connected also with internet. The last type of designer we are discussing is a packaging designer. And packaging designer not only need to look at the aesthetics, okay, of a package, but will also need to consider and understand which material is best to use for the given package. So walking through a grocery store, you will realize that almost every item is in some sort of package. Diba? Kung pumunta na kayo nag-grocery, so lahat na makikita nyo sa loob na naka-display, every item is in some sort of package. And most of the times, it is the package that convinces us to buy a certain product over its rival. Diba? So, therefore, packaging design's role is to convince its audience without them realizing it. So, if you are a good packaging designer, then the more chance that the product na ginawan mo ng packaging design will be bought or yun yung kukunin ng consumer. And the skills needed for this type of career would be the use of Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, and perhaps also some InDesign. Okay, canned goods, yung mga labels na nakikita nyo dyan, even yung size nung can, even yung the way na wrap yung package design or yung package label nung can is also a result or is also a deliverable of a packaging designer. Wrappers of candies and even your chicheria or junk foods are examples of packaging designers deliverables. Package labels like this, yung label ng oil, kung oil man yan, or shampoo man yan. Okay, even the takeaway containers, how these boxes are folded, okay, how these bags are made up, are made of, how these containers, the shape of these containers, the size of these containers, how the wrappers are wrapped around that containers, it is decided by a packaging designer. Okay, so that ends lesson 1, and that is the last graphic design career. So congratulations on finishing lesson 1 of chapter 1. So if you still have questions, clarifications, or any concerns regarding the topic, or you have suggestions for me to improve my instruction, please feel free to contact me via email, Facebook, or via our messenger GC. Thank you everyone for staying with me until the end of lesson 1. So for our next lesson, we will talk about the elements of design. See you at the next video lesson.